Last year I did a hip-hop piece called Get Out of Your Mind, and really it represented, I don't want to say anger, that's too strong of a word, but it just represented like frustration with things that are going on in the world that you can't change, or that you feel too small to change. And so the dance is, the entire group is just kind of, we each individually, we talked about it before we went on stage and performed it. I always do that with my dancers. We talk about the concept of the piece so we know what we're dancing about. And so it communicates. And we talked about it beforehand, and everyone named one thing in the world that they wish that they could change, and they feel like they're just one person and not enough people care about it, and you know, they feel too small to do it. And I said, okay, great. Have that in your mind the entire time you're dancing. And think about it and picture it in your mind, and while you're dancing, you are changing it. Think of it that way. While you're dancing, you are expressing your purpose, you're expressing your anger at not being able to change it, and you're expressing why you want to change it, you're expressing what exactly you want to change, how you're going to change it. And then after the dance, we all felt so empowered, we felt like we could go out and do it. When it's a solo, obviously it's about what I'm feeling, but when it's a group piece, everyone's got to feel it. Everyone's has to be telling that story. It can't just be my story. It has to be their story too. So when I choreograph for a group piece, I can use a struggle that I've faced in my life, but I also have to make it universal enough, not only that my dancers can relate to it, but that the entire audience can relate to it too. And it's such a journey because I can come in with a completely choreographed piece and watch the dancers dance the first half and just be like, you know, I need to change the second half, and make it fit them and make it work with them and give them their individual chance to shine. And I always take input from my dancers when I'm choreographing, especially if I'm choreographing a piece as I'm teaching it. I definitely listen to what they're saying about what they think would work, because choreography is a collaboration. Whether you're collaborating with yourself or with others, you know, it's a group effort. And when I teach other dancers, I get inspired by them more than anything. And I really get personal with every single dancer. And like I said, when I choreograph, I tell them to come up with their own version of the dance, their own version in their mind of what they're saying and how it relates to them specifically. And I really get to know them. And sometimes I will decide to choreograph a dance knowing who I want in it first, because I know the chemistry between the dancers work, the dynamics work, and I know that they can all relate to something. If I know, dancing with my best friends, that's the most amazing thing. Doing duets with my best friend, doing group pieces with my friends, it's wonderful. It's a bonding experience, and they're all very mature, and they respect me when I teach them, even though I'm their peer, and it's amazing. I want to teach my entire life. I want to choreograph my entire life. I never want to give that up.
I wasn't afraid, I was a boy, it was a tender age.
I did a piece last year, a solo, and it's called Unnamed, and it's about a very personal experience in my life. I, about a year ago, got out of an abusive relationship, and that affected me in a way that I never knew anyone else could affect me. And it was hard. It really brought me down, and it kind of put a wall in front of me. It kind of stopped me. And I realized that I felt like my body and my soul were completely disconnected. My body would just live life like it was no big deal, and my soul was hurting. And they were totally separate. And I didn't feel like I was the same person. I felt like I was being torn apart inside. And I decided that the only way to bring those two people back together is to dance about it. So to represent my soul and my body being separate, I had a video of me dancing behind me, and I was performing on stage. And the person behind me represents my soul, and then the physical me on stage represented my body. And we start out the dance doing the same motions, because before I was in this relationship, I was fine. I was, my soul and my body were on the same page. And then, it hits. And in the music, there's these little glitches. And it's kind of like this thing behind me creeping up on me that I did not see coming at all. And I had no way of preparing for. And in the video behind me, my soul is being hit on these glitches. And that's the beginning of us being separated. And we see glass breaking, a baseball bat hitting glass, and the glass is shattering. And it's kind of like the window that my soul and my body would look at each other has been shattered, and they have no way of communicating, and they're completely separate. And suddenly my body is being tormented on stage, and I'm running from this invisible abuser that I see, and that I try to portray to the audience is there. And my soul is kind of staring at me for a while, and is like, what is going on? How did this happen? Why is this happening to me? And then it turns around and walks away. And that symbolizes the abandonment I felt. I felt like I had abandoned myself. I felt like the world had abandoned me and just left me to the dogs and, said, good luck. And I felt like my old life had abandoned me. And that was the emptiest feeling I've ever had. And in that moment, the music is almost silent, and I'm alone on stage. My soul behind me has left and is walking away and has disappeared. It's just an empty abyss behind me. And I have to figure out on my own how to get back. And eventually, I realized, after being thrown down over and over by the world, by my abuser, by my soul, by everything and everybody, I get back up. And that's the hardest thing that I've ever had to do. And in my life, when I got back up, that was the hardest thing that I've ever had to deal with. And in my dance, I definitely portrayed that. And it's a struggle. You don't just get back up and you're fine. It's a struggle, it's a journey. And I got back up. It was slow, it was painful, and I started on that journey towards getting better. And me and my soul, we turn around and we look at each other. And the person in the video behind me walks away off stage, and I stay on stage. And that's how the piece ends. And that's symbolizing this old, battered soul that I have leaving my body, exiting my world. I have extricated this experience from my life, and I can move on. And it doesn't end with me being better. It doesn't end with me being 100% back. It ends with me seeing the light, and it ends with me knowing that I'll get there and headed in that right direction. And that's where I was at the time where I choreographed it. But by the time I performed it, I was so much further, because the experience of choreographing it moved me along in my journey in ways that I can't explain. I'd have to dance them in order for it to make sense, because it's just so monumental to my life. And that was the first time I ever felt like I had to choreograph to live. I had to choreograph to function. I had to choreograph to just be me. And now I feel this bond with dance in a way I never did before, because it saved me and it brought me up from the trenches, and it opened me up to this new world, and to light, and to happiness. And that's something that I know I will only feel with dance. And in that moment, I knew there is no other option for me. I have to dance for the rest of my life. There's no way I can live without it. And that was the most incredible experience I think I've ever had in my life.